Hello and welcome to my channel. Well, you may look at this and thinking like, oh, here comes a Cold Steel advertisement. No, it's actually about something else, and I want to put a disclaimer in here. I'm not a doctor. I'm not giving you medical advice. Um, I am going to be talking about adult subjects, so this is definitely not for children, and I'm not trying to mislead people. I'm not going to try to cuss through it or anything, but we're going to cover adult subjects, and one of them is addiction. And I'm not talking about drug addiction. There's different kinds of addiction, and drug addiction is something that's even harder because it involves a chemical substance, and we're not talking about this right now. I'm talking about mental addictions, and I looked it up, because I wanted to see what the definitions of things are and everything. And most definitions of addiction involve using some kind of chemical substance. This is not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is knife addiction. And even though I'm going to joke around and laugh and stuff and talk about things, well, I'm going to laugh. You may not laugh. Um, it's not to disregard the seriousness of drug addiction. I mean, I know people, and you probably know people who suffer from that, and it's not a funny thing. A lot of people don't recover from that. They go down that path and they just do not recover. And if you do recover, it's no guarantee you'll stay recovered. It's a struggle. So I'm not making fun of that, but I want to talk about something that I have an addiction to, as you can probably see, is there's addictive behaviors that you can have, and they list the top ones of them, because one of the things that's similar with the drug addiction and a behavioral addiction is it's affecting the mind on the reward, stress, and self-control level. So without using drugs, you can become addicted to, and here goes the list: gambling, eating, exercise or diet, shopping, shoplifting or risky behavior, having sex, viewing porn, video games. And actually, they've come up with some called internet gaming disorder. So they've already classified a lot of this stuff. And I think, if all of us would be honest with ourselves and everything, we have all done something on this list, and we don't have a problem with it. What's the difference between having a problem with, say, eating, and having an eating disorder? Well, I think part of it is extremes. You're going, if you're having a problem eating because you have a problem with your image of your body, like, I'm too fat, I'm just going to stop eating. Well, it's good to cut down on the amount of calories and to exercise and everything, but if you start getting to where you're obsessed, you start looking like a stick or a rail, like some of the models would do. They'd be beautiful, and they'd look at themselves, I'm too fat. That's not fat, but in their mind, they see a fat person, and they think that's not the image I want to be, and so they go to an extreme. And that's a psychological disorder. Now, I'm not a doctor, because this is ironic to me anyway. My nickname in the military was Madman. So you're listening to a crazy person telling you about how to be sane, but it's all in control, I think, and I lack it. I lack it on, like, if I get into neck knife, look at what happens. I mean, look what's happening. I don't just get one, I get a bunch of them. And, it's not just a bunch of different companies, which I do also, but a lot of times I'll narrow it down just to one company and say, all right, these are usually affordable knives and everything. They're inexpensive. I'm not going to spend a lot of money. It's only $20 a knife. Look at this. It adds up. 20, 40, 60, 80, 100. There's $100 right there, even though it's $20. So um, there's also sub things that happen. You know, like, all right, you want to get neck knives, but now I'm getting it Tanto knives, and I've always liked Tantos. You know, I kind of like had a love-hate relationship to them because I look at them and I go, it's kind of like a chisel tip. Man, that very fact right there comes in handy because I use this thing. Yes, you can get a paint scraper and everything. I use it as a scraper. You can do that with a Bowie knife and everything, but that sweet spot of scraping is just a narrow little point on the curve. You know, unless you're doing a sweeping thing. But really, if you want to like strip paint or you want to do something like that, bam, this is the way you go. The tip, you know, is really strong, mainly for armor piercing. A Bowie knife is going to pierce further with a thrust, but you know, you can look at it, you can see, you know, tip strength. Which one's got the most metal? Which would be most likely to bend? Well, the Bowie knife. But what are you doing? If I want to and I want to chisel and pry, I'm going to pick up a Tanto. Why? Because it's designed for that. It's made for that. It's designed. It's really like the historical portion of it is. I mean, you could probably figure this out. It's from the end of a sword, from a Japanese sword. And if it breaks, which knives do and stuff, rather than throw it away, they take the good end and they make a knife out of it. Because it's nice having a really long blade and everything, but it's also nice having a short blade. I found a coffee table that somebody had thrown away, and it had been abused. Yeah, they've been doing more than coffee on that table. But I started scraping this nice wooden table, you know, on the top. I started scraping it with this, and this size of a knife, 3.5 inches, is much better for me for removing wood than a 7-inch blade. I mean, you can get a Recon Tanto from Cold Steel, 7 inches of blade. That comes in handy too when you want to be more lazy and stand further back. You don't have to bend over as much. But this, to me, gives me more control. Because if you're trying to use one of these to scrape, you can still mess up. You still got to get that bevel just right. You know, you got to get your sweet spot. If you go up, it's going to dig in, you know. But it's all in, I think when it becomes an issue is like if you start maxing out credit cards. I never use credit cards to buy knives. Or you don't control it. You know, I mean, to me, the ideal way to do this was you would get one and you would mess around with it and you would enjoy it thoroughly until you're pretty much tired of it. And that would last for like maybe months or even a year, you know. And then you'd say, all right, that's cool. I won't try another one. And then you go over and you try a different type and you like it. For me, it happens faster, a lot faster, you know. If I find, like, I was gifted this knife right here, and it reminded me of how much I used to like daggers and boot knives. And I know for a lot of people it's not legal to carry a dagger and everything. And if you're used to bushcraft and everything, you go do this, you're going to split your thumb open. But if you remember what it is and what it's supposed to do, it's a dagger. And this thing will work very well for what it's supposed to do, which is it's thin enough to slip in between ribs. It'll penetrate. It'll penetrate very well. It won't penetrate ammo cans as well and stuff like that. And if you do a and twist, but what it was designed for, it works very well at. You know, you don't have to worry about, did I just pull the knife out and I'm going to hit him with the dull edge? No, if you slash with this thing, it's a cutting edge, you know. But that triggered me into like, wow, well, I want to get, you know, like, I want to get this one. So I bought this one, you know, and here we go. Off it goes. And then the good thing about it is I made a leather sheath for it because I didn't like the Secure-X sheath, dull on the blade. I didn't like that. So I made my own sheath. Now I'm off into another thing. Now, this is not necessarily an addiction, but it's another hobby. Like I need another hobby. But I mean, this is kind of related to the hobby that I already have, which is messing around with leather and making stuff, you know? Um, that can be another one, just like woodworking or you name it, you know, any subsection of a hobby you already have can wind up into being another area where you wind up spending a lot of money on it. Now, I think my way of looking at it is you have it, you have this in control if it's not becoming a problem. And I mean like a problem financially. You're spending too much money. It's causing issues, and if you have a relationship, it's causing issues in your family or your group, you know, wife or somebody, you know, is giving you too much money, you're spending too much money, or you're spending too much time doing it. You know, if you like knives a lot, you know, it was the same way with me with my first wife with talking about guns and everything. Um, I enjoyed guns, and I was over in England, and you can't have guns over there. I mean, you could if you joined a club, specialized, you know, and everything, and certain times, and you go to matches. But I mean, you couldn't just handle guns. So I had to read about them, and I wanted to talk about them. And having a wife, that's the only person I could talk to, you know. So she got to the point where she would limit me to 5 minutes of talking about guns per night. And then the rest of the time and the rest of the day, I could not talk about guns. Well, that kind of worked. And eventually she liked guns, you know. And I mean, that kind of like solved the problem after that. I guess I whittled her down after a while, you know. She really started getting into it and enjoying it. And became just as passionate as me about it, you know. I mean, so anyway, with this, all I'm trying to say is I'm now in the neck knife tanto subsection of my knife addiction tanto version, neck knife tanto version. And it's not, I pay all my bills in advance, you know, the important ones, electricity, rent, they even have sub crap in here. It adds up to like another $100. And I usually limit myself to $100 per month for knives. You know, I say, all right, this is it. This is the most I can spend, you know. Not counting the membership knives, because the membership pays for that, you know. I mean, thanks to my members and everything, I'm able to pick out a knife to give away to someone. But, yeah, I'll admit, you know, I've got an issue with it because I don't have as much control. And the way it starts is I start doing research. You know, I don't just buy a knife, you know, I look at videos of people doing it, and I look at the pros and cons of everyone, and then I don't go by everybody's, you know, opinion. I just lump them all in with what I'm already thinking, and then I try to narrow it down. Well, which one would I pick? And this is why I'm not good at which one would I pick, because I can find something I like about every one of these. So what happens? Well, you know, the problem with which one would you pick is, to narrow it down, is pick them all. Now that gets expensive, see? Look, there's your whole knife budget right there. And if you wanted like $100 knife, maybe a little bit more expensive one, then you would have not bought any of these. But if I wouldn't have bought, you see what the problem I have with it? If I wouldn't have bought any of these, then I wouldn't know that I like them. So the only way I know I'm going to like them, the best thing would probably be to go to a knife show or something and not spend any money, just handle knives. Now, I know that again is going to be almost impossible to do, because you're going to wind up finding something you want to buy there. And, but that's the way to do it if you can, I think, is, you know, if you like something, ask to see one. Where are stores like that anymore? Most time, you know, in Walmart, if they have a knife display, there's never anyone there, and they're not going to let you handle it, or if they do, it's going to be the most exasperated person you've ever seen. Like, I got stuff to do. Why do I have to deal with a customer? You know, but anyway, yeah, I just thought I'd throw this one out here. I don't want to make it, like a super long rant and everything, but that's the way, it's just like with, if I get into a particular pattern of a knife, I'll get one, and then one won't be enough, because, wow, you can get this, and you can get that, and they're still all basically, they're still all basically the same. It's just different handles. With these, you can get different blade shapes, sometimes different handles, but I mean, they're still all basically the same, a small cutting blade. But that's why there's so much variety, just like the difference between this one and this one. This is the Kyoto, and this is a mini leather neck, Here's a mini leather neck, and I'm carrying the Kyoto around my neck. You would look at them and you'd say, wow, they're the same knife. No, actually, this feels different in the hand. These little bumps, even though they're not, it's like a shark skin wrap or something original Tanto, it's an imitation of that. Those actually give it a little grip, and it's more flat and square than this one, which is kind of a combination. Palms, I mean, as far as feeling the hand, I like this guard also because it's easy for me to do a strap on the left side that way. But then I found with this one, even having to do a strap on the right side, it's no issue when you pull it back. Look, it's not going to cut that edge. Bam. So I'm learning things, and I'm having fun. I think that if you've got an issue like this, it's mainly like just get one a month. Even if you've got a big budget, just get one and mess around with it and play around with it before you order the other one. My thoughts are, like, man, I gotta get it. I gotta get it while I like it, because I'm gonna get tired of them or something later on. And I'll switch over to I like Bowie knives again, or I'll get into the, I'll go down the dagger path, which I've been through before, but, I've already got good ones. I mean, this is the problem. Every knife that I get, I probably got something just like it in here. There's no need for me to really do this, but then again, it's not causing an issue with me for, like, living. I don't have a family to piss off. Buddy doesn't stick around and listen to me talk about knives long enough, to for it to be an issue with him. And he's a cat, so he probably is just like, he's talking again? I hope he's not talking to me, because I'm not listening. But, yeah, so thank you for listening to this little story. I'd like to offer you some solutions usually when I throw up problems to you, but I have no solution to this one. My thought now is you just go with it. I know this is not very encouraging and not a good way to tell people how to solve a problem, but I just like get it out of my system. I'm gonna get several iterations. I've been thinking about the mini tack Tanto version, but it's like $30. So what I did was I bumped it up just a little bit to $40-something, and I got the Kobun coming in tomorrow. See what happened? It's not super long. It's like got a 5.5-inch blade, and it has that, I think they call it like an American Tanto point. It has that kind of like chisel point on, which I like. It's not a super heavy duty knife, but it's more like for urban. It's to me, it's like with Bowie knives. Bowie knives you can get the ones that were originally like what a Bowie knife I think was, which was a fighting knife. I mean, it was a kitchen knife, but basically it was like a fighting knife, and they evolved into more of a bushcraft type of knife. Chops, it does axe things and everything else, and with that increased spine thickness and weight and everything else comes less maneuverability. I mean, the strength of a knife a lot of times is not batoning through wood and everything. Can it withstand the impact and the stress of slamming into, let's say, like somebody parried with a gun stock, hard wood, or a rib, But usually, that's the main thing it's going after is a human target, flesh and ribs. Ribs are usually about the strongest thing on a human target other than, maybe exterior clothing or whatever implement they're fending off the knife attack with. So really they don't have to be super heavy and be able to chop down a tree to be effective in their original designed role. It may not look as good, on YouTube, because really, YouTube's not going to let you with, even this one's probably going to be slammed for ads and stuff and monetization because I'm talking about a forbidden subject or controversial or whatever. But, again, I'm not advocating anything. This is just me talking about things I think most people go through. Most people have had, an issue with, if not eating, shopping. This is part of it. Shopping, right here. Risky behavior. I rode a motorcycle most of my life. If you look at the risk of driving a motorcycle compared to driving a car, you're much more likely to get injured or messed up. And why do it? Well, because it's more fun. Doing things that cross the line a lot of times, it's that thrill seeking. In that case, it's like adrenaline. I mean, if you like the need for speed, there's nothing like twisting the throttle on a motorcycle and you go. I mean, it's faster than the fastest car you've ever been in, And you feel it too, the wind. You're more exposed. I don't know, but I gave that up because I finally realized, you know what? I'm getting a little too old, man. People my age, they just fall down. They don't have to be going fast. They can be standing still and fall down and suffer bone fractures and breaks and stuff. So, yeah, a lot of this is, to me, is the reward is I got a new knife in. It doesn't have to be super expensive. It doesn't have to be top of the line. It's just another knife coming in. And my issue, again, my problem is I'll find ones that I like and I should stop. All right, like, that's it. Okay, good, stop. You've done it. But no, I got to get a collection. I got to build up a collection. Why? I don't know. Again, I can't give you the answer to that, It's just a part of my nature. And I appreciate people giving me knives and stuff like that, but a lot of times I buy them myself. Even if I've been given a knife, like, this one, I should have just settled with that. All right, I've got a mini leatherneck. But no, I can't stop, because, again, the low price lures you a lot of times into thinking. It's the same thing with, like, Rough Riders. You can buy quite a few of these, or you can spend a little bit more money and get a case, or you can spend even a little bit more money and get a GEC, or you can go into antiques and start buying, very good brands that were traditional knives that are still functional, but cost a lot of money because they're, vintage and antiques. It's all in how you want to spend your money and what makes you happy. And for me, unfortunately, sometimes I go to excess, Sometimes I get carried away. And my only solace to you like this is maybe I can offer a negative example to you, like how not to do something. But then again, I just love trying out different knives and stuff. I mean, the feel, the way. I love knives, I admit it. As I say, the first step in any addiction or anything is to admit you have a problem. I admit I got a problem, but it's not out of control. It's just like most of my life, it's right on that edge right there. It's, a little bit over here, and you're crazy enough that they're going to put you in an institution and medicate you into being silent, And right over here, you're pushing it, But it's okay. You can still be with the rest of us. We don't want to separate you from society, but yeah, you're that guy, that strange guy that makes dinosaurs talk and hunts down crickets. Yeah, that's me. I mean, if you don't like it, you got plenty of other choices to watch. And thank you, everyone that understands me, or at least watches my videos, because really, the way I am, I never expected even any more than like maybe 10 subscribers who actually hit subscribe by accident, and never come back again. Anyways, thank you for watching, and have a nice day.